Why does the villain think he's the hero of his own story? One man destroys half the universe and calls it mercy. Another crushes dissent and calls it protection. Villains don't wake up thinking they're monsters. They wake up convinced they're saviors. We'll expose the mental shortcuts that turn cruelty into duty, control into care, and destruction into salvation. This isn't about cinematic trivia. This is about the psychology that plays out in boardrooms, classrooms, chat rooms, and sometimes in the mirror. Before we begin, sign up and leave a comment right now. Hero or villain? Write down your answer. You can change it until the end. Because when resources dwindle and fear spreads, a dangerous story takes root. Tough times call for tough men. This story seems noble. It authorizes almost anything. In the next few minutes, I'll show you 3 invisible levers behind heroic villainy. The rationalizations that soothe the guilty mind, the prejudices that edit reality, and the moral fog that makes atrocities seem like arithmetic. We'll test them against Thanos, and then against your world. Stay with me until the end for a 10-second self-diagnosis that reveals if your good intentions are blinding you. Use this knowledge for defense, not harm. We're here to understand power so it can't control you. Let's begin. In every room there are 2 figures, one who is noticed, one who is ignored, one who imposes silence, one who fights for crumbs of respect. And here's the bitter truth. Most people believe that likability grants them authority. They seek approval, smiles, nods, applause, but approval is cheap, respect is expensive. Villains understand something we refuse to admit. You don't need to be liked to lead. You just need a story compelling enough to silence doubt. And the darker the story, the stronger it is. This is the trap. The boss who calls exploitation mentoring. The partner who calls control love. The tyrant who calls fear order. Thanos didn't think he was destroying lives. He thought he was saving lives, because every villain needs a mask of righteousness, and the most dangerous ones believe their own lies. A quick question before we move on. Have you ever met someone who justified hurting others as helping? Comment yes, because the next part will show you exactly how Thanos constructed his heroic mask. And when you understand his logic, you'll realize you've heard this before in your world, before becoming the most feared. Being in the galaxy, Thanos was merely a witness. He watched his homeworld, Titan, crumble under the weight of abundance. Too many mouths, too few resources. His people laughed at his warning. They called him mad, and then they all died. From that day on, his madness became his mission. He believed the universe was destined for the same fate, and only he had the will to stop it. Balance. That word wasn't cruelty to him, it was mercy. Half must die, so the other half can live. For us, it was genocide. For him, it was salvation. And that's the scary part. The villain who sees himself as a savior doesn't ask for forgiveness. He asks for gratitude. Thanos isn't alone. Magneto believed he was protecting mutants. Ozymandias believed he was preventing nuclear war. Every dark savior rewrites history so that their cruelty becomes a cure. Tell me in the comments, which villain do you think truly believed they were doing good? Thanos, Magneto, or someone else? I'm curious to hear your perspective, but here's the question. What psychology allows a person to sleep at night after killing billions and still believe they're the hero? How can a man erase half of existence and sleep peacefully at night? The answer lies in 3 invisible tricks of the mind, tricks that not only villains use, but also people you know. 1. Self-justification. Bias. The mind edits reality to protect the ego. Thanos didn't see genocide. He saw himself as a surgeon cutting out an infection. Cruelty, reframed as necessity. This is self-justification, the story we tell ourselves so we can live with the monster in the mirror. 2. The greater good trap. When someone says, it's for the greater good, what they really mean is, my vision matters more than your life. From dictators in history to bosses who sacrifice employees for the future of the company, the logic is the same. Sacrifice today, utopia tomorrow. 3. Moral fog. The more abstract the victim, the easier the cruelty. One life lost seems like tragedy. A million seems like mathematics. This is moral fog, when numbers obscure the weight of human suffering. Thanos didn't see faces, he saw statistics. And here's the disturbing truth. We do it too. When we justify harsh words like just honesty, when leaders call exploitation discipline, when nations turn casualties into numbers. But knowing these psychological traps is only the first step. The real question is, how do we defend ourselves against them in our daily lives? Stay tuned, because in the next few minutes, I'll give you 3 practical lessons from Thanos. Lessons that reveal how to spot a villain masquerading as a savior and how not to become one. Thanos teaches us 3 relentless lessons, not about destruction, but about how dangerous the human mind becomes when it convinces itself it is pure. Law 1. Every villain needs a story. No villain claims to be evil. He claims to be necessary. The story justifies the act. In life, beware of people who always have a noble motive for their cruelty. They don't see betrayal, they see tough love. They don't see exploitation, they see mentoring, application. Whenever someone hurts you but disguises it as a favor, ask, who really benefits from this story? Law 2. The greater good is a trap. Thanos sacrificed half the universe for balance, but the greater good often hides personal control. History is full of tyrants who crushed freedom in the name of security, workplaces full of bosses who exhaust teams for the company's survival. Application. The next time someone asks you to pay the price for everyone's benefit, don't just ask what was gained, ask who pays. Law 3. The hero complex blinds. The most dangerous villain is the one who believes their own lie. The hero complex blinds leaders, partners, and even ourselves. When you're convinced you're always the savior, you stop questioning whether you've become the oppressor. Application. Check yourself. If you're always the savior in every story, perhaps you've become the villain in someone else's. Which of these laws have you seen applied in your life? Include the number in the comments. 1, 2, or 3. Your answer may reveal which hero mask tried to manipulate you. The real danger isn't villains, it's believing you can never become one. Because if even Thanos thought he was saving us, what stories are you telling yourself now? When you understand these laws, something changes. You stop falling for the greater good mask. You stop being blinded by people who frame cruelty as care. And most importantly, you start questioning the stories you tell yourself. Everyday situations. A boss demanding overtime for the team. A friend using guilt as concern. A leader rallying crowds with fear. Most people obey or are crushed. But you will see through the story. You will recognize the hidden cost, and you will choose differently. This is the transformation. You go from someone who seeks approval to someone who earns respect, from someone who is manipulated to someone who cannot be controlled. Because the true hero is not the one who destroys half the world in the name of salvation. The true hero is the one who questions their motives before acting and refuses to trade morality for control. And here's the twist. Once you master this, manipulators lose control. Because villains don't fear strength, they fear clarity. In the end, Thanos didn't see himself as a tyrant. He saw himself as the only one strong enough to do what others couldn't. That's what makes him terrifying. Not the destruction he caused, but the conviction that he was right. Quick recap of what we've seen here. Every villain needs a story. The greater good is a trap. The hero complex blinds, so remember this. The most dangerous villains aren't the ones who know they're bad. They're the ones who think they're saving you. Now I want to hear from you. Which villain do you think was most convinced they were the hero? Thanos? Magneto? Someone from real history? Comment below. I'll read and respond. And if this opened your eyes, subscribe, because in the next video, we'll dive into another enigmatic character and discover how chaos itself can be a weapon of manipulation. Trust me, you don't want to miss this. Stay strategic, stay distant, stay powerful,